to be seen, of course. This meeting will be recorded, so that also if you don't want to be seen on this presentation, you have to turn off your camera. So thank you, everybody. Yes, so let's go. So we are all there. So thank you very much. So this is a Visa4biotech about ecosystem in the UK, presentation and best practice. Okay, of course. Okay, this is I'm going very quickly to the programs today. So first of all, introduction by myself and Mina, then the tech ecosystem and landscape by Alice, the biotech ecosystem overview by Claire and Aline from One Nucleus and from Business France. Then you have Public Fund for Innovation by Nora from Innovate UK, Catapult by David Sexton, and then One Experience sharing of a French biotech incubator in the UK with Frédéric Garzoni. So hello, so I'm Laurent Pépin, I'm a director of Genopole, business and partnership director at Genopole. I'm very happy to see you today. For some of them, we don't know Genopole, so it's the French leading biocluster. We have currently 77 companies, 18 academic labs, and 26 platforms. And we are very happy to welcome the ambassador of the team of the ambassador of UK of France in the UK, sorry, and Business France to help us with this Visa4biotech. I give the floor to Mina. She will introduce herself and her team. Thank you, Mina.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank Genopole and Anjou Vanceau and Laurent, who gave us the opportunity to participate in preparing this today's meeting. It's important for us because innovation is really in our portfolio, and we are very happy to share today with these companies from Genopole some of the informations that we have here in the United Kingdom, and we hope that all the information you will gather today will help you maybe preparing new initiatives in UK in the next future. I think I have a slide, Laurent.
Go ahead.
It's a general one. I don't know if you have it. It's no problem if you don't.
No, that's okay. If you want to share, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I would like to thank all the people who helped us preparing this program. At the embassy, we had the economy department with Alice Baudard, who will introduce the ecosystem in a few minutes, and also Business France, especially the branch of Business France who is in charge of biotechs, especially Claire. Thank you, Claire. And of course, I would like to give special thanks to our British contributors today from Innovate UK. Thank you very much, Dora. I think it's your first name, Dora. And also to the representative of the Catapult Center, which is a very interesting type of initiative that they have here in the UK in terms of innovation. And then we will have a testimony from Frédéric Garzoni, who himself has built his own biotech company, and I think it would be of great interest to have his contribution. And I forgot, I think, people from One Nucleus. I'm sorry for that. Aline Charpentier will also introduce us to this ecosystem, which is quite close, if I understand well, to Genopole. With that, Laurent, I don't know if you have the slide, but if
no,
you
I don't. Go ahead.
It's no problem. I mean, now I would like to just give the floor for the first contribution, which will be a general presentation of the UK tech ecosystem, and which will be given by Alice Baudard. And Alice is new at the embassy, but I think she has a great experience.
Okay, I share, don't worry. It's okay?
Okay, no, this is just a slide to show you the ecosystem at large in terms of higher education, research and innovation funding. I will not detail it. It will just for you to take home. And with that, you can see the different structures which are funding, the public institutions which are funding innovation in the UK. So, Laurent, if we can, we will shift to Alice.
Okay.
So, Alice, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Alice, the digital attaché at the economic department of the French embassy in the UK. And I will give you an overview today of the UK tech ecosystem. Next slide, please. So first thing to know is that the UK tech ecosystem is the first in Europe with a record of $15 billion invested in UK startups in 2020. It is the third ecosystem in the world after the United States and China. And it stands before its European counterparts like France and Germany. And for example, in 2020, it attracted more venture capital investment than Germany and France combined. Germany attracted $6.6 billion and France $5.6 billion as a comparison. The UK is home to 85 unicorns that are privately owned startups that are valuated at more than $1 billion. The 5 last unicorns achieved this status in 2021. For example, Benevolent AI is one of the most famous biotech unicorns. It uses artificial intelligence to develop treatments for conditions such as Parkinson's. The dynamism of the UK ecosystem continues in 2021, in spite of the pandemic. It attracted already $11 billion in the first quarter of 2021. The ecosystem is increasingly mature. It means that the funding rounds are getting bigger and bigger. For example, as a proportion of the total venture capital investment in 2020, the proportion of seed investment, which are investment rounds of $1 million, are decreasing, and investment rounds of Series B, C, and mega rounds that are investment rounds of more than $15 million are rising. The strongest sectors in the UK tech are financial technologies. It is the second, actually, fintech ecosystem in the world after the US. It attracted $4.5 billion in 2020. Deep tech is also a strong sector in the UK. Deep tech can be defined by R&D intensive startups. And also in 2020, mobility was a strong sector, thanks to big funding rounds from startups like Arrival that recently actually got an IPO on NASDAQ, to give you an example. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So the strength of the UK ecosystem can be explained by several reasons, and among them is the public support for startups. So first, there are several fiscal incentives for investment and innovation in the United Kingdom. I quoted several ones. So business asset disposal relief, for example, formerly known as the entrepreneur relief, reduces the capital.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Reduces the capital gains tax from 20 to 10% for entrepreneurs that sell their startups. So it gives a big incentive for entrepreneurs. The Enterprise Investment Scheme, EIS, and Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, SEIS, is also a big incentive, but for investors. It gives an income tax relief of 30 and 50%, and also gives a capital gains exemption of 50 for the SEIS and 100% for EIS, so it's a strong push. SEIS is targeted at smaller startups that are starting to trade, whereas EIS is targeted at startups that are already on the growth stage. And EIS and SEIS are actually one of the most quoted fiscal incentive that explains, for example, the strong angel investment in the UK. And finally, there is also, no, sorry.
Not yet, sorry.
I will tell you. And also there is a 230% tax relief on corporate tax for R&D costs for SMEs, which is a big push. So second is public funding. So there is a special scheme for startups, which is called startup loans, that give loans up to £25,000 for startups at a fixed rate of 6%. Also in March 2021, the government announced the creation of the Future Fund Breakthrough, which is a fund that offers loans to scale-ups from life sciences, quantum, and clean tech sectors. And it is to support the growth of R&D intensive companies. And finally, for public support, there are a large offer of visa options for researcher, entrepreneurs, and also tech talents. For example, IT professionals, etc., that are a big stream for talents in the UK. And most especially, innovator visa and startup visa enables entrepreneurs who have an innovative idea to start their startup in the UK with a minimum level of English and with an endorsement by an approved body. Next slide, please.
Of course.
And another reason of the good performance of the UK tech ecosystem is its entrepreneurial culture and the diversity of its UK tech scene. So first of all, there are several trade associations and lobbies that enables startups community to raise their voice. So for example, Tech UK or the Coalition for a Digital Economy are conducting researches, hosting events, and also lobbying the government to raise the voice of the tech community. You must know this, but the United Kingdom has a strong research and academic environment that is worldwide known. For example, 5 universities, commonly known as the Golden Triangle, are very often in the top of the rankings. So University of Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College of London, UCL, and London School of Economics. So it gives big access to talents, but also big access to research. The United Kingdom hosts as well important institutes. For example, the Alan Turing Institute works on artificial intelligence, or the Open Data Institute works on open data and is worldwide known institutes. Finally, a lot of programs and structure exists to accompany the growth of entrepreneurial ideas. The UK government, for example, provides support for innovative startups through the Tech Nation program. Tech Nation is a state-funded network that provides accelerator programs, for example, like the Future 50, that gives help to high growth startups. Also, which is important to understand in the UK, that the tech ecosystem is also privately led, and there are, as an example, there is more than 40 incubators and accelerators in the UK, half of them being in London, that give accompaniment programs. Some of them can be generalists and some of them can be more specialized. For example, some are in partnerships with universities like Imperial Innovation. Some have a science or life science specialization like the BioCity Accelerator. Next slide, please.
Sure.
So as a conclusion, the UK tech ecosystem is a very strong one, but also a very competitive one. It is strong because there are a lot of different support programs, accelerators, incubators, and also strong experience, but a competitive one because, as you saw, there are more and more unicorns and strong startups that are developing, but which gives also exciting opportunities. So if you need more information on the UK tech ecosystem, I will be happy to answer your questions during the Q&A time. And also, if I can give some resources, you can find some more information on the UK on the website of the Economic Department that is just on the slide. And also, I'm giving the website of the French Tech London community, that is community of French entrepreneurs and volunteers that are in London and that are organizing events and also giving resources for newcomers in the UK. So thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Alice. Maybe we can have one question very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because after it will be maybe too far away. What about biotech? Because are they excluded of strategic reason or investment? What could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the figure actually comes from the Tech Nation report that is painting the landscape of the UK tech every year. And it uses the data of a website which is called Dealroom, which is a data curation platform that aggregates different data. But Dealroom excludes biotech because otherwise the figure would be way bigger and it wouldn't really represent, like it wouldn't be a great figure to compare to the other ecosystems. That's how they justify it. Okay. So, but unfortunately, I don't have the figures for biotech.
Okay, that's clear. And another question from my friend Olivier. Do you have any I will say answer or assessment about Brexit impact or something like that? Or
sure, but I think there is a presentation dedicated.
Yeah, afterwards, yes.
Okay. That's why I didn't cover it. No, so maybe
that's perfect.
Yeah, I think from.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you. Olivier is always very impatient. No problem. No problem. Okay, so let's go now with Claire.
Hi. Okay. Oh, you can hear me. That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
perfect.
Thank you, Claire. So from Business France and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my name is Claire Gallier, and I'm in charge of the healthcare and biotech sector for Business France. I would just give you an overview of what is Business France very quickly, and I will present briefly the biotech sector in the UK, and let Aline Charpentier from One Nucleus go deeper in the subject. So next slide, please. So you may be already aware of who we are, probably, and so I will just give you a quick overview. So Business France is the national agency supporting the international of the French economy. We work in two sides, so the export side, preparing and helping businesses to find commercial partnership or find partners in targeting markets. And we work in the other side, which is more the investment, by helping the foreign investors to make decisions and offering support through their projects. We run as well the VIE in international internship programs. So this VIE enables businesses to give candidates a temporary assignment of between 6 and 24 months in a foreign country. And we are present in 124 countries, supported by the Team France Export, who is our and your interlocutor in France, in charge of making the connection between the French companies, so you, and Business France around the world, so the teams in the foreign countries. So next slide, please. So if now we can talk about a bit more about the life science ecosystem in the UK. So the life science sector is very attractive in the UK, but I'm sure you already know that. So we have nearly 257 people working in this industry with a turnover of 74 billion each year, and it's increasing each year. We have a huge part of investment in R&D, and it's supported by governmental incentives. We are the largest biotech cluster outside in the UK. So the first biotech cluster in Europe, and we lead in the early stage trials, for example. And the ecosystem, as it has already been said, is very rich with top 10 universities. We have a lot of charities involved in research as well, and very great partnerships between academics, industries, and hospitals. Next slide, please. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a bit of overview of what are the research priority areas. So without surprise, the main areas is oncology, with a lot of trials made in this area. But we have as well all this immunology, nervous system, cardiometabolic, and infectious, and more a partnership between tech and biotech, because I know there's tech in biotech, but we have more and more AI, for example, in the biotech sector. So partnership between very tech companies and very pharma companies. And the last one. Yeah, and just this last one before I let Aline speak. So as it has already said as well, the Life Science UK is well known for its biotech golden triangle. So between London, Cambridge, and Oxford, we have like more than a third of the biotech companies present in this area. Of course, there's biotech companies in all the cities. So you can see on this diagram, where they are more or less, and we will have the chance to hear Frédéric Garzoni, who is not in the golden triangle at the end of this presentation. But yeah, you can see this the repartition of these biotechs in the UK, and we are supported by a lot of cluster like Genopole in all around the UK. And I will give the stage to Aline, who is based in Cambridge, and we will talk a bit more about this biotech ecosystem and the Brexit impacts.
Thank you very much. Just if you have any question, we can take some question in live, and don't worry. So we can continue, but we have also the chat where you can type your question. So thank you very much. So Aline, this is your part now.
Yes, thank you. So thanks for the nice picture, nice introduction, Claire. So no title with Brexit in it. So yes, I will have to address that because that's a question I was already asked. Although to be honest, I'd be curious to get Alice's point of view on the impact on tech, because what I will present to you is more the wider context of the opportunities to collaborate in 2021. So yes, opportunities and then challenges inherent to the Brexit situation and also COVID-19. And also just to manage expectation, and I'll explain later. So I work for a membership organization that, as Claire said, is based in Cambridge. And so I think my feedback is more based on what I get from the companies directly. So that's why I'm just going to put in this presentation, and then I will send you relevant links to anything if you want deeper thoughts on Brexit. So thanks for the invitation, and glad to see so much interest from Genopole and companies in your network. And I think it's very relevant and very complementary with what's some of the expertise you can see in the UK and especially in our region. So in the next slide, I did same summary. So I realize, sorry for passing the slide, but I have some things popping up after, so that may look a bit strange if I'm not managing the slides, but we'll get there. Okay, so you want to? Yeah, do the whole slide. So do another one maybe. You want me to give you the? Yeah. You want me to stop sharing? That's okay? No, I'll keep going, that's fine. And can you click another one? Sure. Yes, there we go, thanks. Okay. So yeah, so that's the slide, just summarize life science sector. So it's just reinforcing what Claire said. I have about 80 billion of contribution in the UK GDP for life sciences, just to highlight how important that is in the whole economy and what that represents, and the reason why the government is really keen on pushing on supporting this sector in very various ways. It's on all levels, so it's world-class research based. That's the big universities we all know about, but that's reflecting in Nobel Prizes, but also publications and really world-class patents that you can see, but also in the capacity of translating this science into company creation and company growth, because there are really good examples of companies that have been through the whole creation, scaling up, and then exiting very successfully. It's probably not as many unicorns as you can find in the tech sector, but there are some leading examples, and especially in the pharma space. But it's also in terms of life sciences and healthcare in particular. It's the system itself. So it's this patient data sets that the country has, thanks to the healthcare system, the NHS, that is a nationalized system, so allowing better sharing and gathering of information and clinical information, and so developing really strong competencies in the clinical development, and that linked with really strong key opinion leader in some hot areas that Claire highlighted, makes it really area of expertise in clinical research. So then the map you can see on the right-hand side, that's from the Office for Life Science report. So every year they do a big collection of data of companies in the life science and medtech and biotech space. So if you're interested, I would advise you just to have a look at that. It's a good sort of macro perspective of where the companies are based, what sort of areas they're covering, and just extracted from there the figures for biotech and genomics, because you're probably interested in that in terms of number of employees, turnover, number of sites, and just a tiny analysis of how these figures are evolving. So that's for the big UK sector headlines. So if you can go on the next slide, please, Laurence, and click again. Yes. So this is a quick highlight about industry in the pandemic. So what happened in 2020, we all know. But to highlight that UK biotech companies, life sciences, were doing really well before. So I think before 2020, we were in like 2-3 years in a row of continuous growth of investment in the space. But 2020 really set a record with 2.8 billion invested pounds in the companies. Half of it being private capital, other half between a mix between public markets and sort of debt financing. But I think it's really reflecting what happened in general in the sector, but even so more in the UK as being seen as really a key actor and stakeholder in the space of biotech. So exciting year, despite the not so exciting context. It's also to show the continuous engagement of the government, as I said, strong in the balance of GDP, but also shown in them investing in terms of public money. So life science sector deal that was set a few years ago, but I really involved strong funding in different set of initiatives. So the catapults were one of them, and you'll hear about the cell and gene therapy one later. But also in some funds that are really aiming at developing translational research and setting up companies and making them grow. So one of them being the biomedical catalyst, sort of overseen by Innovate UK, and really strong in the space of supporting companies and projects in growing and developing, well, therapeutics innovation. But then that was just at the rest of the slide, the questions around the first time fundraiser. So yes, we've seen lots of investment. That graph is actually taken from a report from Borhurst around the tech investment. So it's more generalist than just biotech, but I think that's following the trend, just showing that it's record investment, but there was a trend around the follow-on investment being more funded than first time rounders. And actually that was exaggerated with the crisis in 2020. And we think there may be elements of, yes, companies have been able to do connections, raising money, business development, and in an efficient way, because if you don't have to travel, yes, it's easier to set up meetings, but it was easier for the ones with established networks compared to the ones with non-established networks. And I'll get back to that, but that's a question around supporting the early stage companies. So if you can go on the next slide. This is web. And so can you click?
Sure, I can click.
Yeah, I think 3-4 times.
It's enough. Another one.
Yeah, no,
that's okay.
yeah, stop. That's it. Thank you. So that's the Brexit one. So of course, 2021 is the follow-on of this 2020 record year, but there's something called the Brexit happened. So as I said, I am not a Brexit specialist. The BIA, who is the National Trade Association for Life Sciences in the UK, has a very good portal where they list all the useful information, resources. I think they have some webinars as well about the political insights and also the very detailed of how that is impacting and the guidelines for companies. So I would recommend, if you are a company and you're interested in knowing exactly what to do, to probably have a quick look at that, because that's useful for the very, well, details of what to do with this Brexit. I think what I wanted to highlight is what I sense from companies we're working with would be the major changes. So I tend to think that there are 3 big pillars in biotech companies that are just their strategic development and goals. So money, technology, people. So if we talk about money, as we saw, it wasn't the biggest impact you could imagine. So just privately raising money has not been an issue and will probably not be in the future. There is still big attraction in raising money. And so Brexit, regardless, that will still be the case. I think the main impact will be around the European projects and the different European involvement. So the good news is Horizon 2020 is still available for UK biotechs. So there is, again, guidelines on UK participation that I would recommend any company to just follow and see how they need to fulfill the requirements if they want to involve UK partners. I think the worst part of it was the withdrawal from the EIF, and so consequences it may have with some investors who were interested in contributing to that. But I think it's more of a longer term consequence. So I don't have a concrete example of right now, but just probably to keep an eye on that. On the technology element, I would say, well, a bit more impacted than definitely the money. So I think it's all these questions around supply chain. So where there is an underline, this is where I also put link on some webinars that I found useful. So supply chain, we did one with Thermo Fisher, who were really good at actually setting this wall, how the new zero tariff, yes, but also additional requirements will work. How does it work on lab supplies, which is not really a constraint. It's more an additional thing to think about, but it's not impacting badly yet, at least companies. I'll get back to that in the next slide. They think that COVID-19 definitely had a worse impact than that. Oh, sorry, can I just finish on the previous one?
Yeah, but okay. That's okay.
And then, yes, just put the question marks remaining in the service space. So I think that's the point that was the least well addressed, again, taking feedback from company in terms of projecting on the post-Brexit world. So for the CROs, typically, how does that impact their incomes? But another question is around the R&D tax credit in countries. So for example, if you have a French client, can they claim back the R&D or the R&D service they are doing in the UK? Can they claim that back as a tax credit in their country? No. Mm-hmm. And so then how can you make for the loss of potential clients in that? I think that's probably the main impact at the moment is the R&D space. And then on the people element, I think that was definitely the biggest concern because the UK life science has always lived with a huge exchange of talents and immigration, and especially from Europe. So when we just ask quickly in companies around our network, what's the percentage of EU citizens you have in your staff, in your workforce? It was about 20%. And so they absolutely cannot carry on their research projects without that. So it was really important to make sure they had it right and to make sure they keep this attractivity. So technically speaking, yes, there is the EU settlement status. And again, I put a link on a webinar if you want more information on that and how you apply for it. but the biggest question for me that remains is the attractiveness and why, you know, how can you be so attractive if you make things a bit more complicated? There is no impact yet, but this is a question that is, I think, still on hold. So if we go on the next slide, as I said, I think at the moment, Brexit still has some question marks, but overall, it's not such a huge impact as we can imagine. I think the biggest one remains COVID-19. Not in the worst part, because as I showed, really good investment, an industry that was under the spotlight, and somehow good practices that emerged from that we never thought would be so quick. But I think just listed quickly some points that I think are still of concern of companies we're working with. So if we talk the supply, maybe that's more the supply of PPE or plastics, not that you can't get them, it's just they have costs that are higher than they used to be. If you're a large organization, then that's really impacting your expenses. That's this early stage question I mentioned earlier. Yes, companies are raising money, attracting discussions with investors. Maybe it's slightly more difficult for the very early stage companies because they don't have the existing network, and building a network when you are from home is not always the easiest. These questions around deal making, again, seem to work really well in a remote way, but that's the pipeline of it that is questioned now. Is the deals we're making now, the ones that were discussed pre-pandemic, what's going to happen in 6 months time or 12 months time in terms of making them delivered. And then say delivering on milestones, the impact it may have on investors' interest, and just the general uncertainty around the whole situation has still more impact than Brexit. We can have this conversation in 6 months time and see if the balance changes. So if we go on the next slide, because I thought it was one of the interest for having this webinar, there was sort of quick advice for early stage biotech to come to the UK. So UK is and remain an attractive location for life science. We have to think so. I think is, yes, the quality of research, the sort of mindset and proactivity around supporting companies that is really there, but it's really relying on international collaboration, regardless Brexit. Again, I want to reference that. And still very open to that. Life science is a sector that is international and wants to remain international. So yes, please carry on collaborating with the UK, and especially with Europe because of historical collaboration and capacity of having staff traveling from one location to another. So I think what's in to come to the UK, well, one element could be looking at collaboration or business development. And this is where I would strongly encourage you to talk to the regional networks because they are the ones who know best the companies in their own. And listed if you want to cover the whole UK, talk to us if you're interested in the east of England, talk to OBN if you're more on the sort of west and Oxford side, and then BioNow covering the north. If you do that, you probably have a really good coverage of the whole UK. And then if you want to set up in the country, yes, that's to talk to Business France or the organization who can help you with that. But it's also about the locations. And so it's understanding what you're doing and where you think that would be more relevant to you. And so that's why in the next slide, I just thought I will do my quick plug about One Nucleus and the east of England. So that's us. We are in Cambridge, but we cover this whole eastern region. So just shiny figures on why it's a great region. But I think more importantly, is just say the sort of expertise in the east of England and Cambridge is really this strong antibody research and therapeutics antibody with the legacy of companies like Cambridge Antibody Technology, then MedImmune, then part of AstraZeneca, of course. That's the genomics expertise and biodata, and I'll get back to that with the Wellcome Genome Campus and the Sanger Institute and the ABI being based there and having lots of companies now spinning out from that, so very interesting and relevant. Then that's other areas like if you're going down to the London corridor, more digital health developed, and then if you go to the other extreme, the Norwich part with the microbiome expertise that is very, very strong and developing a lot. So if we go to the next slide, that's the strength of our network and ecosystem. So I think, as I said, it's Cambridge, so it's access to many R&D partners, key opinion leaders, but also a very strong talent pool. So yes, making it competitive somehow, but also really good for gathering the right talents for companies or collaborators. It's the structural support. It's a small town, but with lots of science parks and very science driven. And very strong funding and finance culture. And I think in the technology bit that is a bit overlooked by the logos, it's just to highlight that it's this academic center of excellence, Sanger, BI, or the Earlham Institute in Norwich, but also the strong company ecosystem in genomics and biodata listed there. Anything from pure genomic services to more data or liquid biopsy or the benevolent, that is the big success story that we mentioned earlier. So I think if we go to the next slide, that's it. That's just me. So I thought that helped understanding a bit better what's in biotech this year, the challenges, and of course, any questions, just be in touch and I'd be happy to discuss later.
So no question.
Be happy to take them later.
Sure. I have just one question. What do you think UK it's much better in I would say not much, but better than France for let's say production or bioproduction? Do you have some
For bioproduction?
Yeah. What do you think? No, I was wondering if you think, yeah.
I don't know. It depends. What do you?
I don't know. I was talking about antibodies, the gene therapy. So maybe we can talk that with David later on. It's a very important subject for us. So.
Yes, yeah. I guess currently, I think you have a very strong expertise in terms of technology. In bioproduction. I think it's difficult because I know less of France, surprisingly, despite my accent. But,
I thought I was hoping. But that's okay. we can talk later on. It's a
yeah, definitely, because I think that's an important topic for here too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So let's go to Dora now about innovating in the UK. So Dora, if you are ready.
Great. I'll share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So let me stop sharing mine. That means.
Okay.
And you can you? Yes.
Yes. Can you see that?
No, we cannot. Yes, we can.
Yes, the slides are showing. Fantastic. Great. Thank you. I'll put my video on as well. That's great. Okay, so hi, thank you ever so much for having me here today. My name is Dora Meredith and I'm the Europe and Global Portfolio Manager at Innovate UK. And today I'll provide you an overview of what we have on offer and opportunities for collaboration between the UK and France. And I'll share my slides after today, so no need to be scribbling everything down. So Innovate UK, as it's been touched on already, we're the UK's innovation agency. We invest in new ideas and technologies and connect businesses to the right people to drive economic growth and social benefits. So our main equivalent in France would be BPI France, and we actually work with BPI very closely as one of our key partners. We are part of UK research and innovation. So we work with the government to invest over £7 billion a year in research and innovation through the UK's 9 leading academic and industrial funding councils. And you can see them all on the screen. And our vision is for the UK to be among the best places in the world for businesses to innovate and grow. And our mission is to drive sustainable economic growth through business-led innovation by investing in innovation and giving innovative eyes in all sectors access to the knowledge, partners, investment and markets that they need. We've got 5 strategic goals, and these, like I've mentioned, delivering economic and societal impact, supporting and investing in innovative businesses, maximizing commercial impact, identifying and transforming emerging industries through innovation, and finally building a coherent and supportive environment to enable people and businesses to thrive. On this slide, you can just get a taste of the impact we've delivered since 2007. So we've provided over £21 billion additional value to the economy and created over 100,000 jobs. And I now reach the sort of core part of my presentation, which is to give you a bit more detail on the kinds of activity that we fund. So we've got a variety of different national work streams, and I'm just going to briefly go through them. Firstly, providing grants for single businesses, then looking at grants for collaboration between businesses and research organisations, then procurement contracts for R&D in the form of what we call the finally innovation loans. Now, all of our support is available for companies in the UK or those that set up a system. And to see the latest opportunities, I'm just going to go through those details. So smart funding mention businesses in any sector, and it's really about supporting that individual business, and it's a competitive application process for the apply. Secondly, as I said, collaboration with businesses and research organisations with more of a sector focus. So here we have called the Industrial Strategy Fund, and we've invested in different areas, such as, for example, manufacturing or accelerating the detection of disease.
Dora, could you turn off your camera because the connection is bad?
We offer procurement contracts. Ooh.
Yeah, the connection is bad, so maybe you should turn off your camera. Could be better.
Yes, will. Is that better?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, it's better like this.
So SBRI, great. Thank you, Laurent. Great, I'll carry on. So SBRI offers the opportunity for government organisations to solve challenges by connecting them with innovative businesses, and equally it offers businesses to win a government contract of £1 million or more to help them demonstrate and develop new technologies. And finally, innovation loans, which we've been piloting to ensure businesses can access funding at all stages of innovation. And this is especially useful for late stage R&D projects or to help scale up. So overall, that's kind of a taste of our national core activities. I did just want to quickly touch on a further thing that I think could be of interest to you, and that's also that we do knowledge transfer partnerships, which is when UK businesses or businesses in the UK can be linked to an academic or research organisation in the UK. And again, we can find that very useful for sharing knowledge between academia and companies. We have a wide Innovate UK family of centres and networks which support our mission and we work very closely with. Firstly, the Knowledge Transfer Network, the KTN, which is a network partner of Innovate UK. KTN links new ideas and opportunities from all sectors with expertise, markets and finance. So they have a very large network across the UK and they offer a number of different events and support to businesses. Secondly, Innovate UK Edge. This is part of our growing connecting network and it's based regionally across the country. It helps businesses to manage innovation, commercialise ideas and grow. So we also connect to a network of advisors spanning more than 60 countries through the Enterprise Europe network. And we help companies to connect to develop products or services or expand their exporting and things like that. So very much regionally based support through Innovate UK Edge. And finally, the network of Catapult centres, which bring together 9 leading technology and innovation centres spanning over 40 locations in the UK. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I know the presentation after me will go into more detail here. But in summary, they are physical centres with cutting-edge R&D infrastructures, including hubs, laboratories, etc., and technical expertise. So I'll leave it there and hear more about that after this. And then the final thing I wanted to talk to you about was how Innovate UK supports international collaboration. And for this, we have a suite of different tools. The two main ones I was going to talk about today were firstly our association to Horizon Europe, which was touched upon in the previous presentation. This is really a fantastic opportunity to work on R&I projects with partners from the UK. Just to reiterate that organisations from associate countries participate in the same way as those from member states. So, once we associate, if we are counted as eligible for that call, then we are funded in the same way as other member states. And we also provide support through national contact points, which are based at Innovate UK for the industry-facing parts of the programme. And they can help advise participants with their proposals. So strongly advise people to reach out to the relevant national contact points. Sorry, that's just a few frequently asked questions about Horizon Europe. Again, reiterating that yes, we can coordinate from the UK, and yes, we can participate in co-funded partnerships and things like that. And just to highlight that the European Commission has published a Q&A on the UK's participation in Horizon Europe, which is available via that link. We also support companies to collaborate through the Eureka programme. And here we run calls for collaborative projects with over 40 countries, including France. So for example, there will be a Eurostars call later in the year, open to SMEs from any sector to collaborate together. And there'll be details on the Eureka and Innovate UK websites. Thank you very much. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you've got any follow-up questions, and I apologise for the technology issues during that presentation. Thank you for having me, and any questions, very welcome.
Thank you, Dora. So you can stop sharing. That's fine. Thank you. So no, it was fine. We hear you very well after. That's perfect. So maybe we can go through with David. Because I guess the question after for David and Dora could be almost not the same, but at least in the same area. Thank you, David.
It's no secret that we're in the midst of a revolution in medicine. So equivalent to the revolution we had 100 years ago, where people expected that they would lose children when they were having families. Now, that's a very rare thing and a tragic thing. But 100 years ago, that was expected. But with improvements in medicine, in sanitation, in vaccines, in antibiotics, that's a thing of the past, at least in the developed world. But currently, the latest therapies are those in the cell and gene therapies. And we can look forward to a future where dying of cancer is something which is an exception rather than something you'd expect to know people dying of. We've got advanced immunotherapies, which have very impressive results. In this area of rare diseases, a lot of the monogenetic rare diseases are looking like they can be seriously improved by gene therapy. And that's something which the UK government recognises. So they have taken steps to invest and accelerate these industries by setting up the Cell and Gene Therapy Catapult. So what is the Cell and Gene Therapy Catapult? The first thing to discuss is what is a catapult? Now, briefly, Dora went into this, but a catapult is a non-profit company set up by Innovate UK and the UK government to accelerate key industries for the UK. The ones which are most relevant to this audience is there's a medicines discovery catapult, which looks at small molecules, RNA therapies, things like that. There's a biologics catapult, which looks at antibodies, protein-based therapies, and that's in the high-value manufacturing catapult. It's a bit hidden away. And there's my catapult, which is the cell and gene therapy catapult, and we specifically look at set therapies defined as advanced therapies by the EU, so that is cell therapies, gene therapies. There's a few other things which are included, things like exosome therapies, tissue engineered therapies, but the bulk of it's cell and gene therapies. What we aim to do is we aim to bridge the gap between industry and academia to accelerate the development of new therapies and solve problems for the industry as a whole. We're not a for-profit entity, so any profits we do make are reinvested in solving those problems for the industry. How do we do that? Well, we have a number of different assets. So, for example, we have in London, in Guy's Hospital, development laboratories, which we can do analytical development, process development. We won't make therapies, but what we will do is work on enabling technologies. We also have a series of collaboration labs as well, which is a really unique institution. So companies looking to address this sector can work side by side with cell and gene therapy Catapult experts and help upskill their own teams to develop those capabilities in-house. We have the Manufacturing Innovation Center, which is actually a coronavirus response, and at the moment is being used to manufacture a vaccine for COVID-19. But in a couple of years, we're hoping to switch that towards large-scale gene therapy development, and that's what will principally be used for going forward once the crisis has passed. And we also have the Manufacturing Center in Stevenage, and this is not a CDMO center. We wouldn't contract manufacture any advanced therapies for people under any circumstances. This functions more like an incubator. So effectively, if you see the floor plan here, it's made up of 2 floors, each with 6 different independent manufacturing units with clean rooms, grade C and B. And what it acts as, it's a place where your company can train up and have their own staff manufacturing their own therapy, and we provide support in kind of the quality systems, the qualified people, the logistics around that, the training, and helps a company bridge that gap if they're looking to manufacture their own facilities, because obviously it's an expensive investment to develop your own facilities. So besides the manufacturing support, we have our industrialization team who can support your companies either in process development, analytical development for therapies. If it's a technology seeking to address the cell and gene therapy market, like an incubator or a quality control assay, we can also look at things like benchmarking or develop that assay for you as well. We have support on the regulatory clinical trial side. We have a lot of experience with the MHRA, but have dealt with Europe for a number of years and have done clinical trials in Europe. So we have experience with all the big 5 countries in Europe, but as many of the smaller ones as well. Specializing in the cell and gene therapy space, we can provide support on the non-clinical safety packages as well, what kind of animal experiments, toxicology experiments you would expect to need when approaching different regulators, and how to approach them when it's appropriate to go for orphan drug designation, how to interact with the different regulators in innovation meetings, things like that. And on the final tranche, we can provide support on how to bring these therapies to market. We can provide a lot of support on the health economic side of things as well, and how payers will interact with your therapy and what kind of reimbursement you can expect for your therapy. So that's kind of what we have, but how does that relate to you and your company? So I've got some examples. So Autolus is one of the collaborators in our manufacturing center, and they're making T-cell therapies for clinical trials at the moment. It's going very well, but we've worked on embedding their process into our manufacturing facility where they can manufacture for clinical trials at large scale. It's also a facility which is licensed for commercial therapy. So when they make their transition to commercial product, it can support them in the early stages of that. It's helped them raise capital to make them a more investable prospect and helped accelerate them on their therapy journey. The other thing we can do is we can provide support in areas you may lack. So for example, for the University of Edinburgh, they were developing a therapy for liver cirrhosis, and they wanted to look about how the payers would engage with this therapy and what they would think and what kind of reimbursement they can expect. So they went to our team of healthcare economics experts who look at what the current standard of care is, what costs you'll be displacing, what kind of improvements you can expect from the therapy, and what kind of reimbursement that would translate to for the different payers throughout Europe. We can do Europe, we can do North America, Canada, Australia, and that helped them plan the clinical strategy. So once you know that kind of information, you can look at, do I need to work on bringing down my production costs? Do I need to look at reformulating my therapy to make it more effective? Because maybe the clinical trial worked, but it didn't work well enough to get a reimbursement to make it economically viable. That's something I definitely think therapy developers should consider earlier than they do. And I often engage with therapy developers and I ask about their regulatory strategy, and they have a clear one, and I ask, about engagements with the payers, and they often haven't done even at a reasonably late stage. And I would definitely encourage that, because they're ultimately your customers. The final way we can interact with companies is we can collaborate with them. So if it's an exciting technology which is in line with our core goal, our core R&D aims, because we get funding from the UK government to do R&D, we can work with companies to develop new IP, new technologies, and then we would split those kind of results between the parties. So for example, we have a collaboration with King's College London, where we looked at developing a new, more automated, closed AAV manufacturing platform. And that has been successfully developed and is now being rolled out to a number of manufacturing sites throughout the UK. But again, that's something we're perfectly happy to engage with. It can either be grant funded, for example, the Horizon 2020 grants, or the Eurostars grant as well, or it could be something which is a more in-kind situation. So we have core money from Innovate UK, and if it's something we're going to do anyway, we can work with companies and do in-kind contributions for collaborations. The final tranche of support we provide, we try and provide infrastructure which will make the UK a more attractive place to do investments. So, for example, in terms of clinical trials, we run the ATTC, the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centre network for the NHS. Well, we coordinate it anyway. And what that is, it's a network of treatment centres spread throughout the UK, which are set up and trained and have the logistics to deliver these kind of advanced therapies like cell therapies, gene therapies, because it's not necessarily simple for medics to deliver this. And by standardizing, being able to coordinate through the whole network, we enable it, well, national clinical trials, and make that more simple, and also streamline the rollout when these therapies are approved, because that's eventually what these therapy treatment centers are going to be used for. And yeah, that's effectively the main ways cell and gene therapy Catapult operates. We do a lot, so that there's other things I haven't mentioned. We do things in skills and training as well. But the final thing I was going to talk about is why you'd want to engage with the UK. And I think the really good reasons to engage with the UK, we have a really, really open and collegiate regulator. The MHRA is a nice regulator to deal with, because they will work with you and they see it more collaboratively. They don't necessarily just answer the questions you ask. They may point out things you may want to consider and things like that, where a lot of other regulators may be more strict. They have quite fast timelines and they're getting more aggressive. So it's a great place to do clinical trials. We have a lot of experience with ATMPs. You're talking about probably double the number of ATMP companies present in the UK compared to France. So we have a large skill base, and the investment community is there as well. We have specialist investors who are experienced with ATMPs as well. Do you have to be based in the UK to work with the Catapults? The answer is no. I'm the business development manager for the EU. So if you did, I wouldn't have much of a job. Typically, the ways you can interact is, one, commercially. So that's where you'll be paying the Catapult for a project and you get all the IP. The second is through a grant-based collaboration. And as I said, we're active in Horizon 2020 grants, and we can go on other bilateral grants as well. Third way is just a straight-out collaboration. That is on a case-by-case basis, based on what's aligned. And the final way is we do industry-wide consortia as well. So sometimes there'll be things like standardizing AAV lentiviral standards that came up last year, and we want to get engaged with the industry and see what kind of things they want for those standards. And it's good to be in contact to just stay abreast of things which benefit the community as a whole. So I hope that gave you a brief insight into the Cell and Gene Therapy Catapult. I'll put my email address in the chat box. If anyone has any questions, they can email me, and obviously I'll be here for questions as well.
You're on mute, Laurent.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, I'm on mute. Yes, thank you very much, David. It was very interesting. Yes, some question maybe after Frederick experience of his experience in the UK. Frederick, if you can. Yeah, Anne, maybe you have a question.
Sorry, just one.
Sure, go ahead.
Just one remark. Is it possible to get your presentation?
Yeah, just, if you just
After
send me
that,
an
and
email,
can we, yeah,
I'm happy to
we
send it
can
out.
Ah, yeah.
we can share it with everyone or not?
Yeah, yeah, I've already emailed.
Yes.
I emailed it just before the presentation. So sorry
Yes,
about that.
we
I've been on
Okay.
holiday last week, so
That would be really nice. Thank you very much. That's really impressive.
Yeah, very interesting, Catapult, because we, as you know, at Genopole, we are very focused on gene therapy. So we have a, I guess, question for you. But let's go with Frederick. Frederick, maybe if you want to share with us your experience in the UK.
I'm happy to do so. Thank you very much. And thanks to the French Embassy as well as Business Friends for the invitation. I feel quite honored to discuss about and share with you my entrepreneurial experience here in the UK as a French individual. Perhaps before I do so, I just want to make the point that my company, Imofron, as it's called, is not a French company who established itself in the UK, but it is a fully English company established here in Bristol. And the second statement I would like to make before I get started is that I, as a French, I absolutely love my country, and I'm not there to destroy what France is trying to do. However, as much as you would expect from your best friend to tell you the truth about things that doesn't work, I'll be happy to share that side of the things. But as far as you are concerned, I believe that all the companies there in the audience are present in France, so they might already know what I'm talking about. So my name is Fred Garzoni. I'm the CEO of Imofron. It's a biotech company, a startup developing new vaccine technology. Originally, this company was supposed to be in France, or at least as I imagine it. So I'm a biochemist by training, and I did all my career in Grenoble on the scientific polygon. When after seeing thousands and thousands of different projects, one of them caught my eye, and that was this vaccine platform project. And at the moment we made this discovery, I started to imagine, and I was not the only one, obviously, that, in the scientific community, that one day a virus might come and hit us, and that we're not prepared for that, and we need to invest into new technologies. And this project was developing pretty well, and I was very happy about that. The team did a fantastic work, but the time for the company was the time for the project was to move into the frame of a company. I think at that point academia was a bit too small for this project, and I tried to take it further, so in the frame of a startup. So at the time, my PI or boss, if you would like, my collaborator, Imre Berger, moved to the University of Bristol. So he was appointed there as professor at the University of Bristol. And he was also, he's now the director, co-founding director of the Max Planck Institute in Bristol. So he left, and that was at the time where I wanted to set up the company. So I decided to not follow him in Bristol originally, and quit my job to set up the company in France. And then, so I've been unemployed, and what I was expecting to be a couple of months only, because I thought the technology is so clear and so good. And because I spent more than 10 years on the scientific polygon knowing everybody, I thought that would be something quite easy to do. And however, after a year and a half of unemployment, trying to establish the company, getting a network, which is also not easy to do as a scientist when you are leaving the bench and go into the business world, I discovered quite, some very good institution there, who are ready to help you. So there are incubators. However, these incubators, for some of them, they have a great business environment, but no laboratories. Or I could have had a laboratory, within the polygon, but not having a real business environment there, meaning, staying into maybe a too scientific area. So I was looking for, a place, something around this project to take it further. And it was quite of a struggle. And if you have had, a company in one of the institute, then you realize that, some institute are a mixed institute. So you need, a hosting contract, a collaboration contract, and this has to be signed by sometimes 3-4 different institutes. And then you end up talking to many, many people. And sometimes you have people around the table, you're not sure why they are there for. And the administration is kicking in. And I think we all know how the administration sometimes can be quite, not helping your project, so to say. So at the same time, Imre being in Bristol, he told me that there is a guy there, his name is Harry Destakroy, set up a new incubator in Bristol, and I have the feeling that this is what you are looking for. So I've been getting in touch with Harry and realized that he wanted to set up a company in Bristol and did not really find a place either to do so, or at least not as he was expected. So he decided to set up his own incubator that was called Unit DX. Back then, they are now rebranding, it's called Science Create. And in essence, is providing you with offices, lab space, and these laboratories, they comes as, let's say, boxes that are empty, and you can make them à façon, as we say, and they provide a whole network around you, meaning accountants, lawyers, business angels, everything you are dreaming of at the very beginning of your venture, so to say. So I found that quite impressive, really, what he did, and I decided to join the incubator. And at the same time, the UK had voted for something you may have heard, it's called the Brexit. And I'm not going into the detail of that, but the UK government realized that at that time, it was not like every entrepreneur were dreaming to come into the UK to set up their company. So they created, several mechanisms there. And one of them was from the BBSRC. It was called FTMA, for Future Talent and Mobility Award. So they put money in a grant where they were trying to attract people. So Talent and Mobility Award, for talent who was abroad to come in the UK. So we wrote the grant application. Heard that we got the grant after 2 weeks. 2 weeks after I decided to pack my stuff and go in the UK. The grant was allowing, to pay for a salary, rent, or there was very, very flexible money to do pretty much what I was looking for. Keep in mind that at the time I was unemployed after more than a year, and I have 2 children. I had an apartment to pay. And, things were becoming difficult. And so I took that decision to come in the UK and left my family behind me, originally for 3 months, but then the grant was extended because the project was going well. And then that was extended to 6 months and then 9 months. And at the time, Harry, whom I told you set up this incubator, sold this company, which was called Xylo back then, to Novo Nordisk for a deal which can go up to $800 million. So this proof of concept of having a new company based on deep tech and science, and if you would provide everything that the entrepreneur needs, show to be successful. And obviously angels were happy because they got their money back with a bonus, and then they reinvested that into the community and so on. So that allowed me to close my first seed round less than 9 months after I arrived in the country, having a lab and develop, proof of concept. And then obviously a year after that, COVID hit, showing that, country needs new technology. So that was, I would say, a very smart move to have invested in mine. But, I'm the CEO, so that's the kind of things I would need to say. But the truth is that we know now, from the different government, that there's a race for doses and things like that. And I was glad to hear President Macron last week saying that perhaps we haven't been brave enough and that we should have been investing earlier in innovation. So, my story absolutely relied to that, and I fully agree with what has been said. So anyway, sometime after I joined the UK, my children and girlfriend joined me, so now everything is fine. So and I'm happy here in the UK. I'm still happy with everything that I'm doing here. I'm not an expert into, Innovate UK and Catapult, even though I know them obviously since I'm here. And I think that the people before me has been, doing a fantastic job to tell you about that. So I can't really how to say this, I can't really, share lots of experience on that. Business France, I think it's a fantastic thing. They contacted me. We have been discussing several aspects they are doing, and I would have loved to know them before I moved to the UK, because I kind of, did it without them. And obviously, if I would need to do that again, I might contact them. So I would encourage you to do that. I can also not share with you, what is it to have a subsidiary here in the UK, because as I say, my company is fully English. However, I'm happy to answer any question on the differences I've seen in the two countries, and yeah, so please feel free to ask.
Yes, thank you very no, it's very impressive, Frédéric. Thank you very much. I guess we can start with you, because it's a very interesting experience, especially for Genopole, because we have startups, because our job is to help companies to develop, and we have Olivier, which is a director of Genopole Enterprise. So maybe Olivier, you can ask your question directly to Frédéric. It could be maybe better. I can read what you have said.
It was too long when it was written. Okay. Thanks everybody, and thanks Fred for that. Did you just suggest that the strength of the funding landscape in the UK was one major differentiating factor compared to France? And I'm just asking that because what I gathered from Aline's presentation before was that the seed funding part of this investment landscape was kind of being not necessarily jeopardized, but raising questions at the moment. So, I mean, I fully agree that probably in France we don't have that strong a seed funding landscape, but I was just wondering if that really was what was making a difference.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and thank you very much for this. I'll try to answer to the best way that I can. Obviously, I mean, what people tend to say is that if you look at the MIT Boston, for example, in the US, there are as many investors in Boston that they are into the entire UK, and that has many reasons. And but now, if you compare the UK to France, I would think that we still lag behind. Someone, I'm sorry, I forgot whom, but showed the EIS and SEIS investment, which is a tax incentive for the British investors. It exists in France. It is to note, it's something that exists in France, but to my knowledge, it's pretty recent, or at least I heard about it when I was in France already. But it's not something that is like maybe the mind of the people, and the risk taking. I would think that it is maybe bigger in the UK, and we see that today during a pandemic and crisis, that perhaps England, after having the Brexit and everything, they decided to throw money into innovation very quickly and roll out, manufacturing and things like that. So I would say that the what we call, Anglo-Saxon type of thinking is yet different that in France. So I would say yes. In terms of academic funding, I mean, the universities here are very well funded. I know that there are some things going on with, cuts into the funding, but this is the case in France as well. So so I would say that yes, there are more risk taking. It is to note that for my project, it was not like that you could just walk in an incubator. It was also a selective process, or like, I mean, at least, my project was judged ready and interesting, whereas sometimes in France I was shouting to the people, there's a virus that's gonna come and we need new technologies. And I think in the UK they realized that perhaps, quickly, as far as I'm concerned, but that's being verified with other things.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's very interesting. And do you know how many projects, or do you have any idea about the number of people that have done like you in the UK, from France or from other country? I don't know what.
Sorry, come again?
Yeah. Do you know how many projects have been accepted in the UK from abroad in this kind of?
I don't know that. I mean, no, I don't. That might be a question for the Innovate UK.
Yeah, maybe.
Even though I was funded via BBSRC, to come, but that would be a very good information to see, how much project they managed to attract. Yeah, indeed.
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that, but I'm happy to go away and look into it more and come back to you. But it's a very interesting point indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, it's very interesting even for us and for everybody. If you can tell us how many projects and how it works, and what is the way of to get this grant. It's very, very interesting. Somebody else, other question for Frederic or somebody else? Yeah, go ahead, Olivier. This is also, of course, for you. Huh?
I mean, I can leave the floor to anyone that wants the floor. But
Yeah.
no, okay. No, I just had a question for David, actually.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Catapult model is something that's very inspiring for us all. My question is, how does it work in terms of business model? I mean, I understand the very strong effort from the British government and various agencies to set up a very strong infrastructure, especially when it comes to gene therapy and cell therapy. But my question is, what's the price sheet when it comes to companies using the facilities and services of Catapult? Is it differentiated according to, I don't know, the size of the company, according to the various, I don't know, criteria? And especially, how does it work in terms of getting a return, an early return on investment from the companies that are using your services?
So it depends. Like I alluded to, a large chunk of the money for the Catapult comes from the from Innovate UK, and that's for primarily R&D projects and things like that. In terms of the commercial projects, they can range from very small pieces of work, like just a non-clinical gap analysis looking at preclinical safety data, or some like landscaping for regulatory work, looking at the different places you can do trials and how they compare between different countries and things like that. Those are like quite small, about 14K, things like about that. And that's done by labor and how many people are involved, and we just cost it up with a certain amount of profit margin. And then you've got things ranging up to occupying as a collaborator of the manufacturing center, and that's a lot more. Again, there's a unique cost model for that, which I would need to have a CDA to share how that actually is structured, but it's a significant investment, let's say like that. In terms of as I say, we do operate profit margin on the product, on the projects themselves, and if it comes out at the end of the year and we have a surplus, which we have every year up to now, then it's reinvested in new things like the ATTC network, like we do some small business support as well for academics and getting them commercialized, and that can fund that, and also skills training we're setting up as well. That's coming out of our money we've raised internally from these commercial projects, and that's a significant chunk as well. And the other chunk is grants as well, that we bid for grants like the Horizon 2020 and internal grants in the UK as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and okay, and to finish, not to finish, and to continue with you, in Stevenage, you have how many labs for bioproduction?
So it's 12 units.
12, and so for each labs you have one company, isn't it? It's working.
That you can have more than one in a so companies which are expanding can occupy more than one.
Okay.
And there's certainly one company which does. But yeah.
And it's full. Is it full?
I think there's one free unit at the moment, but obviously it takes a while to. There's a lead time. I think the quickest anyone's ever gotten is 6 months. So if you're interested, start talking about it now. I was talking to everyone else, but the reason to go for the collaboration center rather than a CDMO is really if you want to manufacture in-house for yourselves, and it's a de-risking setting up that step. If you don't want to, if you just want to be acquired down the line, and you're like, well, I can choose a CDMO. The other reason is if your process is really, really bespoke. So if you're like, I really don't want a CDMO to see what I'm doing, because it's really hard to keep, even with CDAs and stuff, to keep it in-house, then it's another reason to go down, because then it's your staff in there and we're not looking at what's going on in the actual unit, the equipment, all that layout, that's all confidential to you. So those are the two real reasons to go down that route.
No, that's clear. No, I just checking, in fact, if it's working, if it's a good model, and I think it is a good model, of course, and just for our knowledge. It's a perfect. Yeah. Other question? Yeah, Olivier again. Yeah, but Olivier, it was also for you. Huh? Don't be shy, but you are not shy.
I just have a general question for Fred, actually, which is what's next? I mean, you've been rather clear that UK has been a huge opportunity for you so far, and also because the ecosystem around what you're doing has worked very well. The public incentives, the private risk-taking, and everything has worked well. But your company is growing, so needs will appear, different needs, different sort of investment, different sort of infrastructure needed. So are you confident that everything, I mean, the whole system we've been presented is, I know it's on paper, it's on a conference, but it seems to work very well. Are you confident that the next step will be as fluid, as easygoing as it was? I mean, it's not been an easy path. It's not what I'm saying, but it's been working really well for you so far.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, just to comment, I mean, I'm trying to be as honest as I can, and that's why I'm saying that I love France, I love my country, and I'm not there to point out really, like, I mean, or let's say trash it, like I'm there to share my experience, and that's why I've accepted it. So I'm trying to do it in the best way I can. So I mean, obviously the timing and the geographical localization are very important when you have a company. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm having a new vaccine platform, so obviously I mean, the need is more than ever. So I cannot really try to encourage other people to do the same, but at least I'm sharing what I know. So as far as I'm concerned, when I arrived there, the UniDX incubator was a new venture. And as I say, like, I mean, even the person who set it up has incubated his own company into it. And as it happened, a year after, it was sold, as I say, for $800 million. So, one can call that lucky, or what can, perhaps say that, the opportunity was there and someone saw it. And, that's two ways you can look at it. And for me, it pretty much the same. I come here, set up the company, I managed to close a seed round, and now a virus is actually putting the whole economy down, and talking also about health damage. So there will be a need, and we know that already, of a second and a third wave of technologies that are being offered here to us. So as far as my company is concerned, we have had a proof of concept that we have published in Science Advances for chikungunya vaccine, and we have been I cannot share everything, obviously, on the call like that, but we have had very nice proof of concept against COVID in preclinical. So we're not as big as Astra, Pfizer. We're a young startup, and we have a nice proof of concept for COVID. So obviously the next stage is now to raise more money and to go to human. As far as my company is concerned, the incubator, I was saying, it was called UniDX, and they have been rebranding it. So before, UniDX was offering lab space, accountants, lawyers, access to business engines. And now what they are doing is that they are scaling up. So they have rebranded around Science Create, which is the big brand, but then there is Science Create Incubator, Science Create Venture. So they have just set up this year a VC in order to, bring this company to the next level, or make new investments at a later stage as a proper VC, as you would call it. And they are increasing the capacity. So UniDX was a rather medium-sized building, and now they are setting up UniDY, which will be a huge building. You can look at it on the web. I don't have the numbers in mind, but I think they will, make a time 5 in terms of the space. So it will be a very, very big building. It is to note that when I arrived, I was one of the 3 first companies to arrive in the incubator. And within less than a year, the incubator welcomed more than 30 companies. So it was full. So they had to refuse people knocking at the door. So it is a very successful venture so far. And now with, as I said, a new fund and increasing the capacity. To be honest, I'm sometimes thinking, going back to what we see in France, I'm sometimes thinking, I took risk. I didn't see my family for 9 months, and which was the biggest investment. Perhaps I should have done something like Harry, which is, trying to set up an incubator, which looked like this in France. But honestly, how long would this have taken me? One has to be realistic, finding the whole network of investors, a land, a building, and having contact with the different, CNRS or whatsoever, university, and trying to establish a network. But Harry is very talented, and perhaps his talents are exceeding mine from far. So no regret there, I would say.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. And okay, I was wondering if some of our companies still present, like Mina has a question. But go ahead, Mina. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a small question for Olivier. Olivier, you asked a lot of questions, so now in return, I would like to ask you one. From what you have heard and from your experience you got from the United States, where you were and we were together at the same time, what would you define as being the main differences or similarities between the system of innovation in the UK, from what you know and from what you heard now, and from what you have learned from the US system?
Have you got an hour?
Well, you have an hour.
Yes. No. I mean, that's an excellent question, because obviously every time we're doing that kind of thing, everybody has kind of in the back of our minds the US, right? Or China, but China is another thing. I think there's something really attractive about the UK model, which is they're actually doing publicly what the US is trying to hide. My point is, there's a strong ecosystem in the UI, and it's not necessarily only because of the venture capital landscape, right? And you know that, because one great thing about the US is they've got great universities, they've got a very strong public support for all parts of research, being very fundamental research or applied research and development. And it's never in the narrative, right? So we're always talking about the venture capital, and we are always trying about the entrepreneurial spirit, and that's fine, because that's part of their success. But the public sector is also part of the US success, as you know, right? And we've been working on that for years. And what I like about the UK is the UK is not shy about that. I mean, we've had presentations from various agencies. Fred, who is an entrepreneur, is acknowledging that as well. Of course, the Catapult model is really a very, very, and it's really something we're currently looking at. So yes, you've got this whole, as Anin said before, you've got this whole private investment landscape, and maybe the thing that is lacking in the UK, as in the rest of Europe, is the IPO, the strong IPO landscape. That's one thing, but the public support is really amazing, astounding when you look at that from the outside. And again, the UK is not shy about that. They're kind of, yeah, this is what we do. We're kind of building a very comprehensive ecosystem based on public resources, private investors, and everything is enmeshed, and that works very well. That's very attractive to me, actually. And I think when you go back to France, we're not that bad when it comes to the public part of that, except of course, and we've had that discussion a couple of years ago, that our public support is a little bit too focused, to my taste, on indirect incentives, which are research tax credits, and not necessarily direct incentives. But the UK is great for that. You've got strong public support, strong venture ecosystem. Let's put it this way. And of course, I believe in culture, but I don't think the UK culture, when it comes to entrepreneurship, is fundamentally soundly different from the French one. It's just that you've got the two pillars of how it works. And I wish I was British sometimes, yeah, definitely.
I mean, if I could quickly comment on that, Olivier, sorry, I don't want to monopolize the stage there. I think I mainly agree with you. And, as far as biotech is concerned, one cannot say that France has, worse scientists than the UK, because it's simply not true. We've got excellent researchers, and we have also people who wants to make things moving. And I know that there are business angels network who are trying to get together. Do they go in labs and try to take science out of that? That's another question. And how do you do that? It's also another one. At least, there's something. I was talking lots about administration, and we all know, how administration is a problem. I'm not saying it's a gift in the UK, don't get me wrong, but what I'm thinking is that, if you have an entrepreneur there based on science, and you want to set up a company, you want to talk to someone who has been there and done that. You want to talk to someone who has set up a company, perhaps 6 times, failed 2 times, succeeds 3, or whatever, but you certainly do not want to knock at the door of a state office and where you have people sitting there who, the success of your project doesn't make the difference for them, because at the end of the day, they've got a permanent position, and I have nothing against permanent position. I'm actually in favor of that. Let's be clear. But, you don't, both don't necessarily go together. So you want to have answers, especially as a young person like me, you want to talk to, or I'm less and less young, but you want to talk to people, who been there and done that. And that's in essence what I was looking for, and what I found, and what I found here.
Yeah.
Well,
last one. Sorry, one.
No. Just about. Just I want to be clear. Is what we are trying to do at Genopole. Means we have people working. Olivier, you can finish with that. We as Olivier teams and me and people in Genopole, we try to. We have been in this world also. This is why we try to do, and to be clear. And we know that we need. To show that we know our job. This is the most important. Sorry, Olivier.
No, but that's the point. And I mean, I hope Mina will forgive me for saying that, but I mean, the UK is still part of Europe in a sense, right? As far as we're concerned. And I think that we may have to, I mean, I would be really curious to see where, for example, if Catapult as a whole network would be interested in spreading all over Europe and having that kind of partnership and installing different things. I mean, the model works great. Why not spreading it to the whole of Europe? And that's my point. My point is, whatever the weaknesses we've got, and Laurent is right to point out that we don't have necessarily only weaknesses, but whatever the weaknesses are, the way to address them might be to work at a European level. And by Europe, I mean, including the UK.
Yes.
Sorry, Mina.
Olivia, I could talk to that. I mean, it's not theoretically impossible. I think there was one, the energy catapult was talking about setting up another one, catapult, I think it was in China, which may have changed with recent political situations, which wouldn't be relevant to France. But in terms of so if you're interested in talking about lines, I would love to have that kind of discussion. Other things, maybe a bit smaller, worth discussing it is kind of small business support. It's something we provide to UK companies, and I'd be interested in bilateral grants or things like that, setting that kind of arrangement up. So that's something I can definitely have a discussion about if you want to talk about that after this call.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I was wondering if some of our company is what I try to do from Genopole have question, or maybe Zakia, I've seen Zakia, I don't know, even Pierre Monsan from Toulouse, maybe you have some question about, and Mr. Boubacour also, no? No question for UK, if you are interested by the market in the UK or something like that, don't be shy, it's a very open, as you can see, very open discussion. No, that's okay, so we can continue. And no other question. Okay, so I don't know, Olivier, somebody else? Nothing. Gene therapy. Yeah, I was wondering. It was a question that I had to what was Aline, I guess, or I don't remember. Yes, about the difference of. It seems that the market in the UK is bigger for gene therapy that we have in France. Even in that Genopole, we have Hyposkizy, we have Genethon, we have a big gene therapy production. But in the UK, it's maybe for you, David. it seems that you have a big production in cellular or bio production. Do you have any idea why? I would say why, because your man said because of the history of the pharma company. What do you think? Pierre is there now.
Yes.
You want to take? Oh, sorry.
No.
Under manufacturing?
Yes.
Okay, quickly. I'm absolutely not an expert in biomanufacturing, but I think your points about inheritage of pharma sites, yes, that's a big one, because the facilities were there. The skills, so you had people were trained on whatever GMP or anything that they know how to work on these labs. And history also of just manufacturing. You've got areas that had that, and so just reconverted really, and probably good coverage of value chain. I think that's another strength of the UK, I would say, is really having a good, again, for historical pharma presence, but of the entire value chain, that I think is probably valuable. But it's still limited by the same issue you would see, and I'm talking more for Cambridge maybe here. It's about they require big sites, so if the existing, great, but if they don't, it's very expensive to try to build a big manufacturing site around Cambridge. So it's to figure out the redeployment of regional landscape in the UK, I guess. But so yeah, it would be my hunch.
Okay, well, in terms of my answer, I'm not sure why there's such a big difference. For example, with the clinical trials, there's a similar level of clinical trials in France, but doesn't seem to have translated into quite as many companies. So in terms of other things, is the UK kept investing in cell and gene therapy? Like I say, that it was very hot in the 90s, and then a lot of people got disappointed, and kind of investment in a lot of countries retracted. So I think it's managed to capitalize on that it didn't go down as much. People kept working on it. There's a few CDMOs in the UK. Obviously Oxford Biomedica is right up there for lentiviral, probably the most prestigious CDMO, and there's 3 CDMOs for AAV currently in the UK, and then a couple of commercial cell therapy manufacturers as well, and then there's a whole range of academic sites. So there's more. As I said, there's probably about twice as many ATMP companies in the UK compared to France. That's my estimate based on what I see on the territories. But there might be some more secret ones I'm not aware of. But I think that probably is one of the big differences, is that the UK kept with the cell and gene therapy research, when I think a lot of other countries kind of abandoned it for some disappointing clinical trials in the 90s.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Pierre.
Yes, Pierre Monson from Celizy. David, is it possible to comment on the regulatory context and the effect of the regulatory context on the research and the development?
Do you mean in terms of clinical trials with the MHRA and the EMA diverging from Brexit?
Even broadly, yeah.
Even, I would say in terms of for preclinical safety, there's definitely some large CROs have very good expertise in the kind of preclinical models you'd need. For the clinical trial side of things, the UK is going to align with the EMA for the next 2 years, and I would expect them to stay pretty close even after that, to be honest. I mean, it's a Western country. As I said before, the MHRA tends to be a more pragmatic regulator and have faster timelines than other regulators you would get in Europe. I think that the MHRA is probably the fastest in terms of timelines. So that's an advantage. They seem to be getting more aggressive after Brexit than less aggressive. Whereas I think the EMA is looking at harmonising the timelines in the rest of Europe going forward, and we'll see what that looks like. I've heard that they're planning to harmonise to the slower countries rather than harmonise to the faster countries, which is a bit disappointing, but we'll see. So I would say from the clinical trial side of things, the UK is a great place to do clinical trials. You've got the NHS, it's a national network. We've kind of aligned the treatment centres and logistics around that. And the MHRA is a great regulator to work with in terms of just the kind of attitude they have. It has more a collaborative experience than some of the other regulators who will just answer the questions you give them and nothing more. Even if they see something glaringly obvious that they think you should be asking, they won't necessarily go beyond what they've agreed. And so yeah, I think it's a great place for clinical research.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it has been 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, so even more than that. So I think it's maybe time to finish. Mina, if you want to conclude, I would say. We cannot hear you, Mina.
Sorry. Okay, so well, maybe a very short wrap up. Again, I would like to thank all the contributors, especially those in the UK who really tried to give an overview of what's going on here. And I hope it will be an inspiration for the French company at Genopole. We would be very interested in having your feedback, from the French company, to hear from them what they get from the introduction that has been made and what are their, their intentions for the future. Are they interested in what would they like to do in the future to project themselves at the international level, especially in the UK, because it's where we are at the moment. And also Laurent and attendees, if you can give us maybe a short description of all the companies that have attended this meeting. It would be interesting, in particular for the contributors, the speakers, because it would be good for them to know a bit better who was in the audience. And again, what I would like to say is that, well, I talk on behalf of Business France and the economic department here at the embassy, but we are of course ready to hear from you and to answer your questions even in the future. And if everything comes back to normal, we would be more than happy to welcome you and host you in the UK. And we hope also that we can be able to pay you a visit at Genopole, that we would like very much to visit in the future, in the next future.
Yes.
With that, Laurent.
No. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's take a meeting for. Sorry. Pardon.
Yes. Zakia.
Zakia. Okay, Zakia. Go ahead, Zakia.
Yeah, really quickly. If you have to resume all what you say, if you combine the exit, the Brexit, the access market, the clinical trials, and the research, how do you? What is for you the future diagnosis of any French biotech who want, like me, for CEO, to go to and to develop a part of our development, like antibody production? To be honest with you, I'm a little bit afraid about the changes in rules, the changes of for example, the borders. And we know that, for example, having projects, it takes more time than last year's. Just one example. Sometimes we purchase some projects from UK, and last year's, for example, it takes just 1 week, and actually it takes, if the minimum, 2 weeks. I think if you take the global view of the situation, what are you going to do in order to tell us, okay, come and we are going to make things easier for you? And thanks for that.
I think
it's more complex. I know it's not easy.
It will be not my answer. What I can say on behalf of the UK people, I'm sure people at the UK government are not stupid at all, and they will do their best to have I would say a smooth transition and connection with Europe. I'm pretty sure of that. But okay, let's. I'm not English, so I know David or somebody else could answer that. But
I think, yeah, I'm not the person looking after the borders for any of the countries concerned, but I expect things will get smoother over time. That's my general prediction. I mean, you don't. Yeah.
Me too.
Sometimes you can be. Companies having some issues.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, David. I'm sure they will do their best to have a good economy, and they will make any effort for that. I'm pretty sure. That's far than stupid.
Nothing better to add.
Yeah.
It's in everyone's interest to me.
Exactly. We completely agree with that. Yeah. I have one example for me. I just bought something from the UK last week. I receive a FedEx want me to pay, and the guy in the UK tell me, no, give me back the invoice and I will pay for you. That's very simple, in fact. That's what I want to do. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. It was very interesting. What I wanted to say before is that in a year we can make a next meeting with the same people in a year and see what's going on. And I'm sure it will be, with more. It will be more easy to talk about what happened after the Brexit. I'm sure. Okay.
Okay. So good luck, everybody, and keep safe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Anne, tu peux arrêter le recording.
Yes.
Tu vas avoir beaucoup, ça va être très lourd.
Ben non.